We've made it to day two of Sichos HaRan daily. My track record on daily learning makes that pretty good. I just want to begin by starting off just by taking a pause and taking a moment of a break, a breath, in the middle of the busy workday, whatever that workday happens to look like for any of us. It's good to just take a moment to shift and transition rather than rushing onto the Zoom and rushing off to the Zoom and everything that happens in the middle kind of being the same blur of what we went in with and what we're coming out with. Just to take a moment and stop and pause and then begin learning. Sicha Beis. Tov ma'od lahashlich atzmo al Hashem. It's very, very good to throw oneself on Hashem Yisbarach, v'lismoch alav, and to lean on Him, to rely on Him. V'darki, Rabbi Nachman says, it was my way. Kisheba hayom ani moser kol tenuosa shali v'shel b'nai v'ataluyim bi al Hashem Yisbarach. It was my way that each and every day as the day began, I would be moser, I would give over, I would hand over all of my movements, all of my actions, all of the things that I would do and will do that day, and all of the things that my children will do that day, and all of those who rely on me, probably not just his actual biological children, but all those that would rely on Rabbi Nachman. Over the course of the day, he would begin the day asking questions, seek his learning, seek his advice, and on. He would begin the day by handing all of those actions, all of those activities, all of those encounters over to Hashem. Sheyiyah hakol k'ritzonu yisbarach. To hand them over to Hashem so that all of these things, everything that happens, everything that he does, everything that anyone around him does, all of them are and will be fully in accordance with the Ratzon Hashem. V'zeh tov ma'od, and this is very, very good. This is true, of course, regardless. Whether he did it or not, of course, anything that he does is kiritzono yisbarach, and anything that anybody else around him does is kiritzono yisbarach. As the Zohar and the Medrash say, right, that there's no blade of grass that grows without a malach standing above it and hitting it and saying, grow, grow. There's nothing that happens outside of the Ratzon Hashem. All of Rabbi Nachman's tenuos, all of our tenuos, all of the tenuos of everyone around us and everyone who relies on us and everyone that we are supposed to be providing for and everyone we interact with, everything that's happening is all perfectly and completely kiritzoni yisbarach. But Rabbi Nachman would begin the day, he says, by setting an intention and reminding himself that that's the case. Gam azai ein sarach lidog v'lachshov klal al imisnahi kiroi imlav. And as a result of that, I would then not have to worry or even think about at all whether what I'm doing is right or wrong. Me'achar shesomech alav yisbarach, because I'm relying on him. I'm relying on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'imhu yisbarach rotza be'inyan achar, and if he, Hashem, wants it to turn out another way, if he wants it to play out a different way, he can certainly do so, and he will do so. But if it's turning out this way, and if it's playing out this way, if I'm making this decision and I'm moving this way, and I am switching lanes in traffic in this direction rather than that direction, and I'm responding to someone this way rather than that way, or I'm answering an email using these words rather than those words, or I'm ignoring this email and leaving it for later and wondering whether I should respond to it or should not respond to it, or whether it's in my learning or my davening or my interactions with other people. All of those things he's reminding himself, and we can remind ourselves, all of those things are perfectly and completely kiritzono yisbarach, and if they were supposed to be otherwise, they would be otherwise. And if they are this way, it's because this is the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants them for us at this moment. both in terms of sending us our messages that we need for ourselves, based on what's going on around us, the interactions we have, the experiences we have. Each one of those is perfectly somehow orchestrated to send us exactly the kinds of messages that we need and the information that we need about the world around us and our role in it and what we need to be doing and how we need to be responding, given that circumstance. And all of the things that we find ourselves doing, also is exactly in accordance with what we need for us at this moment. וכן כשמגיע שבס או יום טוב אזי אני מוסר כל ההנהגות וכל העניינים ותנועות של עוס השבס או היום טוב לשם יזברך. And likewise, when it comes to Shabbos and Yom Tov, not just with the physical world, with the mundane world on a day-to-day basis, but even when it comes to kadosh things like Shabbos and Yom Tov, he would do the same thing. Sheyia kol kiritzonu yisbarach. All of these things, all of my interactions, all of the things that I do on Shabbos and Yom Tov, for Shabbos and Yom Tov, they are all perfectly the way they're supposed to be. Vazai eich shemis nahig ba'osa Shabbos v'Yom Tov. And then, however I conduct myself on this Shabbos or on this Yom Tov, shuv eino choshev v'choshesh klal shema lo yatsi yedei chova b'anhagas kedusha osa yom. I don't have to worry and I don't have to think, maybe I didn't do it exactly the way I'm supposed to. Maybe I didn't fulfill the perfect potential of accessing the aura and the kedusha of this day that I could have accessed. I just go through the day and I do what I do, and I do the best I can, and I don't worry too much about it. Once I have already handed it all over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and affirmed to myself and made it conscious in my mind that whatever is going on today, whatever is going on throughout this day, is all perfectly and totally and completely in accordance with the Ratzon Hashem. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about it. I think there are a couple of things that are worth expanding about here or discussing here. Number one, of course, is that there's a danger in this if misused or misapplied. This is the danger that it comes along with lots of Pnimius HaTorah and lots of really work on Emunah and Bitachon, which is if you take this the wrong way and take it to the wrong extreme and apply it to the wrong situation, then there's no reason to get out of bed in the morning, and there's no reason to do anything, and there's no basis for doing anything. And Rabbi Nachman, really, if you read this carefully, what he's saying is something very radical. It's one thing to say that after I've done something, after I've made a choice, after I've taken an action, after I've responded in a certain way or gone through a certain experience, I'm not going to worry about that anymore. I'm not going to focus on it. I'm not going to get bogged down in it because it was exactly the way Hashem wanted it to be. B'di'evet, after the fact, lemafreya, things unfolded exactly the way they were supposed to be, and I'm not going to worry about it. But Rabbi Nachman here goes even stronger than that, or goes much further than that, and says, not only am I not going to worry about these things, but I'm not even going to think about them at all. I'm not going to think about lash of klal im misnai kiroi im lav. I'm not even going to think about whether I'm doing right or doing wrong. And that can be a potentially very dangerous way to function. So Rabbi Nassan, in other places where he sort of has parallels to this particular Sicha, he and others emphasize that really, really where this applies and the space within which this applies is the spaces in which we don't know what to do. The spaces of suffix. When we know what to do, of course, we have to work to do the thing we know we're supposed to do. When Tov Ra is clear to us, when it's clear to us what it is to be Misnai Kirai and what it is to not be Misnai Kirai. So we have to work hard and try our best to be Misnai Kirai. And it's not that we shouldn't think about those things or worry about those things. And we need to do our best with what's in front of us. However, many, many times we don't know. It's unclear to us. It's unclear to us either because we don't really know what the standard is or what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. Sometimes the halach itself is unclear. Sometimes the facts are unclear. We don't have enough information about the situation to make a good decision, and so we're forced to sort of hedge our bets and make a decision in sort of what gets called, what we call the fog of war, right? The unclarity of the conflict that we find ourselves in. We don't know exactly what's going on. And if I do this, then will that would happen? Or if I do the other thing, will something else happen? I don't even know what facts I'm dealing with always. I just see what's in front of me, but there's a much bigger picture out there. And we find ourselves in Suffolk. We also find ourselves in Suffolk in situations where the Torah gives us the rishus to make decisions. Where the Torah is not explicit, we're operating outside of the rules of the Torah and we're operating within the principles of the Torah. Instead of saying do this and don't do that, the Torah gives us general values and general principles, like the Ramban says about Kedoshim Tiyu and about Vasisa Esai Tova Yashar Ba'inei Hashem. That many, many times the Torah gives us general values and general principles to fill in the gaps in the places where it doesn't provide us with specific rules and can't provide us with specific rules, because we would have a very unuseful Torah if it tried to provide a precise rule of action for every single person in every possible situation. That would be a very, very, very big book, and it would be very useless for almost everybody, almost all the time, because parts of it only apply to me, and parts of it only apply to you, and parts of it only apply to the next person. And even the parts that apply to me, which part applies to me today, and what about all the rest of it? So this wouldn't be a great book. The Rambam talks about this. The Ramban implies this in his comments on Kedoshim Tiyu and Vasisa Satova Yashar. And so the Torah gives us general principles, general values, general ideas. But the problem with general values and general ideas is that it leaves us with the need to make further decisions about how to apply those values and what those values really are and what they entail in particular situations and how they might interact with rules and when they outweigh rules and when they don't outweigh rules, and when I'm supposed to rely on the value or not rely on that value, and to what extent. Principles rather than rules, but principles, values like Vasisa Satova Yashar or Kedoshim Tiyu, they have what we can call weight. They have weight to them. They're not on or off. They're not like a light switch. I either follow the rule or don't follow the rule. But I can follow the principle more. I can follow the principle less. And sometimes the principle is more weighty, and sometimes the principle is less weighty. Sometimes that value carries more oomph in my life in a certain situation, and sometimes some other value is supposed to do more work in that situation. And this all creates a lot of unclarity and a lot of suffix and a lot of confusion. And the truth is, really, Rabbi Nachman tells us in many places, and others tell us in many places, that this confusion is all really a bechina and an expression of the ultimate primordial tzimtzum. This is what tzimtzum is. We find ourselves in places of choshech. We find ourselves in places of unclarity and darkness. This is really the phenomenon of us living in the reality of the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra. Like the Ishbitzer says, ever since Adam Arishon eats from the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, Tov Ra is now muvulval. Tov Ra is now most of the time, almost always, for various reasons, unclear. It's those who think that they're absolutely clear about what's in front of them and what they need to be doing that are probably in the much more dangerous situation, and will probably make much more dangerous decisions, and not only more dangerous decisions and wrong decisions, but also less ruchniistic decisions, because you're not really engaged. When you know what you need to do, then you're just a robot following orders. You're a ChatGPT responding to prompts. But there's no you there. There's no soul there. There's no creative energy. There's no tselem elokim making decisions mitoch hatzimtzum about what we're going to create and what we're going to do. And so the truth is that depending on every person on their own madrega, kol echad lefum delay, every person within their own space understands and appreciates that many, many things are unclear. And the greater, the more we grow and the more sophistication we have and the more presence and clarity and sensitivity we have to all of the particularities of the world around us, the more we appreciate how unclear things are. And things we thought were clear are now even more unclear. This is what the Leshem describes also as the general process of avoda, where avoda entails reaching outwards beyond the or panimi that's within inside of us, beyond the space, beyond the or that we can grasp and appreciate and understand, and grasping a little bit of the or makif that's beyond us, which is a space of unclarity and the things we don't yet understand. That's what avoda is. Avoda is reaching out beyond what we know and reaching to something that we don't know, which leaves us in a space of suffix. And so Rabbi Nachman is giving us a solution to deal with Sichos, not for the things we know, not for the vados, not for the things we do understand. For the things we do understand, at that madrega, that's where we're holding right now, and at the place where we're holding, at the level at which our avodah is currently taking place, everyone in accordance with wherever they're holding, we have to work hard. To do what we understand ourselves as obligated and supposed to be doing under those circumstances. But another critical part of avodah is reaching beyond that, is constantly pushing ourselves into places where we're a little bit uncomfortable because we're going outside of our comfort zone, we're going outside of our certainty, we're going outside of our space of safety. And the solution to that is, Rabbi Nachman says, is you push yourself one step beyond your comfort zone and you hand it over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because you want me to grow and I don't know what's right and I don't know what's wrong. I'm going to do the best I can, and my decisions are going to be made not out of certainty, but out of suffix, but with an intention to try and grasp the emes lamito in every situation. And Rabbi Nassim tells us that if you are attempting to grasp the emes lamito in every situation, if you're actually intentionally, if the panemius of what you're doing, not the chitzonius, because the chitzonius is you're going to make whatever decision you make, but if the panemius of what you're doing is trying to grasp at the emes lamito, is trying to grasp at something deep and true in whatever it is that you're doing, so then regardless of what the decision ends up being, it ends up being the Ratzon Hashem. That's what you were doing. That's what you're trying to access. And that's what you will be successfully accessing if that's the orientation and the decisions you're making. And so as we encounter all of the bilbulim and all of the sfekos and all of the confusion and all of the uncertainty that we go through throughout the day, like Rabbi Nachman says, and he writes elsewhere that he would do this multiple times a day, every time he needed to sort of reset his situation, and found himself getting caught up in how to do this or what to do that or how to respond to this person or how to respond to that person and how to get everything right. He would do this reset and be moser kol tenuosa shalola Kadosh Baruch Hu, would hand over everything, throw everything to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and said, "It's on you now. I'm doing my best, and the outcomes are entirely up to you." Okay, and with that, that is day 2. And Bezos Hashem will continue tomorrow, day 3. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.